and make constructive critical comments like the action set suggests. So Francisco, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Calimera, everyone. Pretty happy and excited to be here today. And please, all feedback is welcome. If you don't like something that I put, please tell me and tell me why. I will write it. I will not discuss it. I will write it and get all that feedback because I think that's part of the process. So I call it reimagining business models in the metaverse, a conceptual framework for asset tokenization. And the key thing is, what is the aim of this study and what are we focusing on? Well, this study aims to develop a typology of asset tokenization models and a framework for their transition to the metaverse. Because we combine three main elements here. One, asset tokenization, which is taking either a physical or a digital asset and having a digital representation called a token. The second element is the metaverse, defined as a virtual 3D space where a lot of interactions will happen, like the evolution of the internet. And a typology because it will allow us to understand how these business models could really change that metaverse. So there are three objectives. First is to develop a comprehensive typology of asset tokenization business models. And we're gonna categorize based on types of assets and the types of industries that they serve. Second, to identify and assess the factors that are influencing the development of those business models. And third, to develop a conceptual framework for analyzing existing asset tokenization. So what we can do, what is happening right now, and take it into the future. So my research philosophy, I'm a critical realism. So in the terms of the tokenized business models, well, that is that reality that exists, but because we have so many layers of reality, we need to study with my proposal, which is a stratified reality. So I will observe the different types of business models and how they are different on each one of the contexts. And second, my axiology will be reflexive because by understanding how these business models work, then I can analyze what kind of factors are influencing these business models and what kind of typologies I can develop. So in the research gap, I have found that there have been three types of research. One, for example, from Mancuso, that says, okay, there's research on the metaverse business models, but we need more research in that area. That's what Mancuso is saying. That's a 2023. In 2021, Heinz did one of the first asset tokenization frameworks. And I know 2021 is not so new, but is the first one that started to implement this type of asset tokenization framework. And he literally put, in the future, we'll have more business models that are using asset tokenization. And Taher Dust in 2023 focused on more like, okay, what kind of business models and specifically using NFTs could change that type of tokenized business models. I'm gonna explain you what is the difference between using NFTs or tokens in tokenized business models. And Shang, which is the latest one, he's saying, okay, we're having this tokenized asset, but we really need to understand what are the cost benefits of those business models if it makes sense to really implement them. And part of that, so these are the key terms that I use in my research: asset tokenization, tokenization platform, NFT and business models, non-fungible token and business model, and metaverse and business model. And it's the combination of all these key terms, the ones that allow me to find this one. So this is the one that I was talking about by Heinz. He tried to establish a framework so he can understand also from the typology of the tokens that were used. So for example, normally you can have a token that is called utility token that has a function. You can have asset token that is based on a specific asset, or payment token that you can use for payments, which normally cryptocurrencies are like that. So when you hear about Bitcoin, well, you would put it more in the payment token. Also, some people are trying to put in the asset token, but that's part of the discussion. But that's the first framework that I found in the literature. Then, by Mancuso, what he tried to do is like, okay, we have the metaverse opportunities and how you can connect those opportunities and what is happening in the metaverse. The study by Mancuso focused more a lot on the concept of metaverse by Meta and specifically new business model innovation and how other companies around the world, and he did a multi-case study, for example, using Samsung and others in order to understand how these big companies were using the concept of metaverse to really implement new type of models. If you see here, they just have one area which they call it tokenization and complementary. So he says, okay, that's one of the areas for business model innovation in the metaverse. Then you have the PhD thesis from Heinz, and he focused a lot on how you can have a conceptual model for asset tokenization only for the financial industry. Why? Because the financial industry is the one that is showing right now the biggest market cap, let's say the time that you can evaluate what is happening, and that happens because of stable coins. So when you hear about USDC, USDT, Tether, those are stable coins, those are tokenized currencies. That's the definition. And then you have bonds, and then you have other financial instruments. So what Heinz tried to do, and he add more, for example, the network, how is that connected? Because the key thing about this study, remember, is blockchain technology, which I didn't mention at the beginning, but that's the key part of how we can do asset tokenization through blockchain. Then the process, like, okay, you are creating the token, you're managing the token, or what else are you doing with the token? And then the type of services that are interacted with that token. And finally, he talks about the technology layer, which is how do they work, and specifically about the APIs, how you can connect the asset tokenization process, the process of creating tokens, with the other worlds. He studied something interesting called the environment, which most of the research that I have found also is thinking, what are the factors that are influencing asset tokenization? And a lot of them is regulatory perspective, is the legal perspective, and one key area that everyone has promised on the literature is how we can do a standardization. Because if, let's say, if I'm tokenizing an asset in the Solana blockchain, how that will work with an asset on the Ethereum blockchain. So that's when tokenization becomes one of the biggest challenges that he talks in the environment area. And then we have a study by Mandachan, which focus more on NFTs business models in the metaverse. And as you can see, the focus of them is like, okay, for example, in the music industry, oh, you can tokenize your songs, which is one of the most interesting things because now artists will be able to fundraise, but fans will be able to buy tokens of what they have. Also, you have the tokenizing of physical goods, which is related to the real physical assets in the literature definition, or games, which everyone says is always one of the biggest areas that is gonna transform, because now you can use the skin of a game as an NFT, and then if I sell that, I will allow me to use that skin for other game. But then you will go into the problem of standardization and all the other elements. But this is what Mandachan study in terms of NFTs, business models, and metaverse. So as part of the process, we're gonna start with a survey that will allow us to understand what is happening with the different types of assets and tokenization. And I'm gonna just show you before that this one. So this, as you can see, the type of assets. So you have commodities, you have financial instruments, physical assets, intellectual property, digital assets, and art and collectibles. So those are the type of assets that you can tokenize. Then from that, you send the survey and you choose some companies within each one of those type of assets. So I can choose, like, for example, 5 companies that are doing commodities, and specifically I can choose gold or emeralds or any other commodity. But in that case, because they're in the commodity category, and by choosing those companies, I will understand what are they doing. And the same I will do with all the other asset types. So it's choosing something specific. So for example, I already found a company that is doing tokenized bonds. So now you can buy bonds from Mexico, the UK, and And the US, just connecting your Phantom wallet, which is a Solana-based wallet, and you just transfer USDC, a stable coin, and now you have a bond. So it's very interesting type of business model. So the key thing is like, I send the survey to the companies that are already implemented tokenized asset models, and then I do semi-structured interviews with members of those companies. And to get and develop better questions for that semi-structured interviews, I will focus on content that all these companies have already generated specifically on YouTube. Because these companies want to promote their products, they already did interviews. So I'm gonna take that, I'm gonna use an automatic transcription service for that, that will inform me what are the key differences on those companies and what are they doing, and that will help me to inform. So it's the survey plus the transcription of the YouTube videos will help me to inform what kind of questions I can go a little bit further with each one of those companies. At the end, the goal is to interview 25 people and to have 500 surveys. And one strategy that we're already thinking for the 500 surveys, because a lot of these companies are blockchain based, we can use services like CoinGecko and literally paying CoinGecko $100, $200, so they can promote the survey to the members. And because we know that members of CoinGecko are already using tokenized asset products, that will allow us to get that data. So I created this research table, just give you an example. So for the research objective 1, that is the typology. What are some type of questions that I can ask in the interview? And then the interview question. So how would you classify the different types of tokenized assets in the metaverse? So in that way, it will allow me to understand what is the perception of the company. So it could be the CEO, the CFO, or the CTO. One of them could help me in these processes. And because they're already immersed into this, they can provide business model examples that I haven't heard or researched before. So I did that with the other 2 research questions, but I want to talk more about the analysis that I will perform. So I will do factor analysis, and by factor analysis will allow me to understand what are the different factors that are connecting the different typologies and different business models of asset tokenization. And that's by Jontar, and which he already used that for blockchain related projects. And then we can do a discriminant analysis by Mishra, because remember that part of what I want to do is first I understand the typology, but second, I would like to identify what are key things that could be used in the metaverse, like how we can inform that metaverse. And by having that discriminant analysis, I can unveil the factors that I didn't see at the beginning. So I'm gonna show you my model, and this is my current model, and I call it that you start with an open metaverse. So this will not work, for example, with Meta Horizon because it's a closed metaverse. Then you have all the elements. You have extended reality, virtual reality, and mobile phones. So it's the way that you are accessing to the metaverse. And then you should connect with public blockchains because that's the focus on my research. Only that you're connecting open metaverse with public blockchains. Why public blockchains? Because they allow me to have data. So I can know if one of these tokenized business models is really working because I can verify the data. So that will be another input that will help me to understand what type of factors do we have. And type of tokenization, we either go in the NFT side, so the non-fungible tokens, or the token side, because these are the 2 types of tokenization that they're already performing. And these 2 types have 3 elements. One is the asset. What kind of asset are you tokenizing? Second is the utility of that asset, because for example, if you're buying these government bonds by governments, but they're already being tokenized, well, I can use this, for example, for a decentralized financial application that can give me money on those government bonds. So you can create other business models around that. So the utility goes beyond the established utility in the smart contract. And the last part will be the function. Like at the end, when I have this tokenized asset, it's either my NFT or it's either my token, how it will help me in my processes when I'm in the metaverse. So if I bought the tokenized, for example, a fraction of music of this artist, and I take that into another world, could I exchange that through other NFT or through other tokenized asset that he, for example, had physical gold? So this function possibilities opens the door for more elements. And I have completed the 15 minutes. So this is the model that I was thinking of, and thank you very much. This is some of my references.